Welcome back to the Sports Quarter. I'm Quashan. This is my co-host JB. This is a show produced by the Advanced Sports Broadcasting class and is recorded right here at the University of Central Missouri.
It's called the Sports Quarter because this season features 4 20-minute episodes over the next couple of months that will cover sports at all levels.
Every episode is going to look different from the last and into the second episode. We'll be doing a variety show. We'll be starting with March Madness.
The NCAA tournament kicked off on March 19th and has been filled with shocking upsets and exciting plays. With the Final Four this weekend, we thought we'd take a look at how each of these 4 teams performed in the Elite Eight.
Starting with Gonzaga and Texas Tech. What are your thoughts on this following game?
I mean, obviously Tech's guard play is what really got them past Gonzaga, in my opinion. Jarrett Culver had 19 points and 5 rebounds, and Matt Mooney with 17 points and 5 assists. I mean, when you just have your guys at the top of the court producing at that level, it's kind of hard to stop you.
Yeah, honestly, going back to talking about Jarrett Culver, this whole tournament, he's been averaging 21.5 points a game and 4.5 assists per game. So, that's kind of a big step up for him, and it actually is showing that, he's improved over these last 5 games, actually, even coming from the Big 12 championship. Also, he has about 3 steals in his last 2 games, so also on the defensive side, that's kind of helping them as well. Gonzaga, I just wasn't expecting them to, kind of be upset like this. They were like the dominant team. They were the only team, really one of the few teams to beat Duke. That kind of surprised me a little. That I saw them kind of get knocked out in the Elite Eight. I wanted to kind of see them be the team to actually push it and make it to the Final Four. Yeah,
it seems like Tech definitely has been. They've taken it up a level since the Big 12 tournament when they had a disappointing run. Let's move on to the Virginia-Purdue game. I mean, you got to feel bad for Carson Edwards, 42 points in the loss. I mean, he's been killing it the whole tournament. He did everything he could to help his team, but they just couldn't get it done against Virginia.
I mean, honestly, like you said, 42 points, man. It's ridiculous that he has to score nearly all of his team's points to try to get them past, the Elite Eight. And looking back into that game, every single other player on his team, they were in single digits versus Gonzaga's, at least not Gonzaga's.
Virginia.
Yeah, Virginia's. Their starting 5, they all were in double digits. So it kind of helped them that the fact that, and also their guard play as well were kind of, on the good side for them with Guy, scoring majority of their points. And that kind of just helped push them, to kind of get the win over them.
Yeah, Kyle Guy actually had a double-double in the game with 25 points and 10 rebounds. Virginia, I think they just played a better team game. It seemed like Purdue was just the Carson Edwards show, and they weren't playing good team basketball.
Yeah, and honestly, it could have been either sided, but Virginia just had a better game.
Yeah. Let's move on to Auburn versus Kentucky. Auburn, again, it's their shooting, and they're just running around, just putting up shots, and no one's fast enough to keep up with them, it seems like. Harper had 26 points, Bryce Brown had 24. You just got to be impressed with what they're doing right now, and they're definitely like the story of this tournament, in my opinion.
Yeah, and P.J. Washington, you got to give him props, for being that player to actually try to step up for Kentucky and, playing that good role player that they actually need. Actually the star player, but, he kind of came off the bench in the last game. And like you said, Auburn, they're just kind of impressing us. Honestly, they're seeming like they're the 5-star team that everybody's wanting to see in this tournament for them to be a 5 seed. And, it's kind of surprised that, they've been so dominant in the tournament. So, honestly, I'm shocked that, Auburn is actually still in here.
No, I completely understand. Kentucky has been a powerhouse. Michigan State versus Duke. You got to give it up to Cassius Winston. 20 points, 10 assists, and played all 40 minutes. I think this guy, he's been performing as well as anybody else has in this tournament to this point. I don't see him slowing down in the Final Four either.
I'll say my key player for the game was Goings, his teammate. To be able to knock that big shot down and to kind of just be clutch to actually make the three-pointer to kind of put Michigan State way ahead of Duke in the final seconds of the game up by four. Honestly, that just kind of shows that, this Michigan State team is pushing to actually make a run to the championship, and actually that Tom Izzo is pushing his team. At first he was having a little bit of problems with people, getting mad at him as far as yelling at his players and being too aggressive, but it kind of helped him out. This seems like a good place to pause for a quick commercial break. Stay tuned for more sports to discuss.
Welcome back to the second episode of the Sports Quarter. We're sticking with the topic of basketball and diving into a discussion about some controversial calls from the final minute of the Duke versus UCF tournament game. Let's take a look at two of the calls in question.
Wasting a lot of time. You're going to end up sending.
Williamson driving in on Taco, and it's going to fall as the basket goes.
How about that courage? Talk about attacking. Put this team on your shoulder. Big time delivery. How about those onions, Grant? Woo!
This was a one-on-one in the end with two guys with 4 fouls.
It wasn't a dunk on Taco, but the message delivered.
And it was his 5th.
Tell you, this guy right here, all night when his team has needed him, he has stepped up, and Fall is in disbelief that he was called for his 5th foul, and now will have to sit up.
Williamson, a free throw to tie it. 5 out of 6 at the line. Missed it, comes up short, Duke. Barrett follows it up for the lead.
And they're in the
11 seconds.
Full court pressure.
And UCF
At the timeout.
Yep. They will call timeout and set up a shot with 7.7 seconds remaining.
Wow. R.J. Barrett, time and time again, stepping up big. You got to block out.
And with no Taco on the floor, too, could influence those inside or outside positions, I should say. How about that? Talk about length coming in handy.
Yeah, so we take a look at that, and I don't know, like the foul on Taco Fall, like I agree with it. The dude's got to plant his feet in that situation and put his arms straight up. You can't move in front of Zion in a situation like that. And Zion knew exactly what he was doing, attacking Taco with 4 fouls already. I mean, you got to take him out of the game at that point. I think it was just a good move by Zion.
I mean, honestly, and even the player that was kind of guarding him as well, he had 4 fouls in the game. So Zion kind of just saw the mismatch there. You know, he had a mismatch in which he knows that he's able to take this guy. So, you know, with him driving the ball in and actually going up against Taco, you know, that kind of just put Taco a little bit under pressure. Like, you know, you got to stand your ground. You know, you're 7'6". All you got to really do is kind of put your hands up. But, I mean, honestly, that's kind of hard when you got a guy that's so athletic like Zion Williamson, and his athleticism just kind of overwhelmed
And
Taco Fall.
Taco had a good game against Zion overall and on the defensive end of the court, but you can't foul out in that moment. You gotta be disciplined enough to keep your feet planted, and especially because if he was in there at the end of the game, who knows if that layup goes in at the end? You know, he's probably down there and gets the rebound, but that's just not how it goes down. And
then honestly, kind of jumping into that, I mean, you know, Dawkins was looking for a push-off, and honestly, I mean, you got to box out, man. You know, that was the big issue. You have to box out. We watched it multiple times. R.J. Barrett just went straight up and got the ball. You know, you have to box out. This game is about boxing out. It's not just about, you know, oh, you think that the ball's going to come down to you and you're just going to get the rebound. Like, no, you have to go up and get the rebound, honestly. And, you know, with you saying the Taco Fall would just been that player, like if he was still in the game, that would have been their rebound. Would have been game over.
Yeah, exactly.
And, you know, that kind of just put them in the downfall, and honestly, it hurt them at the end.
And I think you can blame refs. It's really easy to blame refs, but sometimes you just got to look at what you were doing in that play. And if he would have boxed out R.J. Barrett, he probably doesn't get that putback. I mean, that's just the way it goes sometimes in basketball.
We're going to stop there and step aside for a quick commercial break. Stay with us. It's all NBA in the next quarter.
Got a quarter?
We're into the third quarter of the show, and the focus is now on the NBA. More specifically, we're going to be doing a draft of the players in the current playoff picture to put together a fantasy team that we think has the best chance of winning the championship. Each of us will get 5 picks, and only 1 player per team can be drafted. Let's get started. Yeah, so with my first pick, I'm going to have to go with Giannis right off the bat. I mean, he's my MVP for this season. I think he's just the kind of player that you can build an entire team around easily, and you can just plug him in at pretty much any position on the court, and he can play it.
Honestly, this is going to be a shocking first pick for me, but I'm going to go with Joel Embiid. He's been a ball-dominant player ever since the All-Star game. He's just been playing ridiculous. Even, putting up a 30 and 20 game at a certain point. It's just his ball game has just been ridiculous in his inside game. And also his outside, for him to be a center and just to come up the court, just pull up with the 3.
Yeah,
Gotta go with Embiid.
For my next pick, I got to go Harden. He's the best scorer in basketball, has been for years now. And I think, sure, his defense may be lacking, but he's actually improved on the defensive end this year, too. I think he's had some of the highest contested shots for a shooting guard in the NBA right now. And that's a big improvement for him as someone who has had a reputation of not giving effort on defense. It's good to see that change.
I'm going to have to go with KD for my second pick. KD, he's, the next face really of the NBA still for me. Even though, he made the jump to Golden State, he's still showing that he's efficient on the scoring end. And then, honestly, his defensive side has been more effective since he's joined the Golden State Warriors, just because he doesn't seem like he's that only player that's just by himself. Like, he actually has a team around him. So now I see that he actually has a defensive side to his game.
Next, I'm going to go Steph Curry. I mean, what do you need to say about Steph? He's the greatest shooter we've ever seen in basketball, and as well as being just a good point guard as far as distributing the ball too. I think that it's just a good starting point for my offense.
For mine, I'm gonna have to go with Kyrie. I need a point guard, and Kyrie's the best point guard in the East still, regards to me. Even though he's kind of been having a little issues with the Celtics, I mean, honestly, he's still that all-star point guard. You can't fall with Kyrie. I mean, his ball game is just very efficient for the Celtics, and he's still kind of pushing it, to help them make it to the playoffs. And I gotta go with Kyrie.
Next, I'm going to go with Kawhi Leonard. I mean, he's the best defensive player in basketball. He has been pretty much since 2013. Like, it's not even close. But I think Kawhi is very underrated on what he can do with the offensive side of the game, too. And I think adding him in will just add another scorer and someone to potentially help out with, Harden's lack of defense that he's had throughout his career. Why not just put in the best defensive player in basketball? Make the defense that much better.
For my fourth pick, I'm gonna have to go with Paul George. I go with Paul George. I mean, he's been having an amazing season for the Thunder, and for him to even be in the MVP candidacy racing for at third place right now, kind of, I would say. But that even just shows a statement that he, with him signing that contract to the Thunder, it showed that he wants to actually make a push with this team. He wants to make a run with this team, and he has a good teammate in Russell Westbrook, but he's just that sheet stuffer. And honestly, Paul George has been stepping up, and he's been playing that KD role that Russ actually needed. They tried to find that in Victor Oladipo, but it didn't really help. And now they have an actual potential MVP candidate on their team. It's kind of helping their push more, and this might help them go into the playoffs.
My last pick may be a bit of a surprise for some people, but I'm going with Al Horford. I mean, I think he has a good shot from the center position, as well as he consistently is near the top of the league in assists for the center position as well. And I think that that'll just help with distributing the ball amongst this stacked team that I already have. I think assists is going to be a big stat that I look at.
My last pick, I have to go Nikola Jokic. I mean, hey, you can't go wrong with Nikola Jokic. He's a ball handling center, and we rarely see that in the NBA now. We rarely see a playmaking center who can actually, be efficient on offense for their team. And he's been helping the Nuggets to actually make it to the second seed in the Western Conference. That's still a shocker to me that the Nuggets are even still that far. And, this is the first time in over, I would say, maybe 20-something years that the Nuggets have actually, not 20 years, about like 10 years that the Nuggets have actually had a 51 season. And it's kind of it's shocking that they're even still making a run for the playoffs to me. But Jokic, he's just been dominating as far as on the offensive side. Defensive side, I mean, he still has a little bit somewhat to work on, but offensively, I can't go wrong with him.
Yeah, I think we both have drafted some pretty good teams here. I mean, I like your Embiid pick right off the bat. It seemed a little bit out of left field, but I think you were smart to do that because I think he was the best center available, like no doubt.
And then honestly, with yours, I mean, you got some of the best scorers in the game. You know, Harden, you can't go wrong with Harden. Harden he's been putting up ridiculous stats this year. As far as with averaging more than say 30 points a game in the past few months. And honestly, you don't have any NBA players that can really do that more than actually 30 points per game. He has the most 60-point games in a season. Honestly, you can't go wrong with someone that is scoring more than 60 points a game.
Yeah, and I think I'd also like to point out like your Kyrie and Paul George pick. I mean, that's a combo I'd love to see together, especially like with the way you have your lineup. I'm assuming you're going to put Paul George at shooting guard. Seeing those two as the two guards would be a fun combo to watch. And
honestly, I see like what you're going as far as that. I mean, you kind of got an athletic team there, man. You got not athletic, but you got a real good ball dominant team as well. As far as with Giannis being the power forward. That's all the time we have left in this segment. In the final quarter of our show, we'll be reviewing previous game picks and looking ahead in the Final Four. Stay tuned.
Hey, you.
Yeah, you. Getting that college education?
What are you gonna do? Graduate and take some office job?
Be like everybody else?
Or will you dare do something different?
Like, be a teacher. You could be my teacher.
You got the skills, the smarts.
Yes, you.
You could be the teacher I never forget.
That'd be cool.
Does that corporate job even have recess?
What are you gonna make of yourself?
What are you gonna make of me?
welcome back to the Sports Quarter. Let's start off the fourth quarter by looking back at the picks from what we and our crew had from the previous episode.
As you can see there, Darren Arthur was perfect with his picks, and Wyatt has some catching up to do. This next round of game picks should separate us a little bit more. So how do you think about, your picks from the last episode?
I expected Duke to be able to win against Virginia Tech even without Zion. I guess I underestimated the importance of Zion to that team in that one. And then I was predicting that Kyrie was going to carry a win out for Boston against Toronto. That obviously didn't happen. But I did get the Tennessee upset right against Kentucky, so at least I didn't go 0 for 3.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I could say the same here. I went 2 for 1, and, honestly, with the only surprise was just the Virginia Tech versus Duke. I wasn't expecting Virginia Tech to be that team to kind of upset Duke. And, I mean, the season that they were having was just outstanding. And, honestly, they even played in one of the worst college basketball games ever as far as scoring-wise, but somehow still managed to pull off a win. And, with Toronto versus Boston, I kind of predicted that. I mean, only because of just how Toronto, they're the more dominant team in the East now, with their defensive side. Mm-hmm. And Boston has just not been able to mesh well with their team at all. And, Tennessee, that was a surprise to me that I chose that upset over Kentucky. Kentucky's just been kind of off this whole season. Now let's take a look at the head matchups for this week's Final Four game. Let's start off with Auburn versus Virginia.
Yeah, I think the key for Auburn here is they got to stay quick, they got to stay fast, and the three's got to be falling for them in this game. I mean, Virginia is obviously one of the best teams. They're the last one seed left, which I don't know how many people had that in their brackets. Probably not a lot. But Auburn, I think they're the hottest team, and hopefully they can stay hot.
I mean, honestly, Virginia, they're not really the team that I want to see that's still actually in the tournament, which is still a shocker to me, a surpriser, after what happened last season. And, it almost happened again this season, but, they've been somehow able to manage to make it to the Final Four. But to kind of jump off into the next game, Texas Tech versus Michigan State. Who do you, what are your thoughts about that game?
I think for both teams, it comes down to the guard play for them. That's basically where their bread and butter is. Cassius Winston for Michigan State, and then you look at Jarrett Culver for Texas Tech. I mean, those are two big names in this tournament that have been killing it since the tournament started. And I just don't know which one's going to be hotter, to be honest. That's what it comes down to, is which guard has the better game.
I mean, honestly, we're going to have a good guard game, like how you said. I mean, we got, two dominant players that are at the guard position, and they're showing their skills that, they're able to actually push their teams and make a drive. And then Tom Izzo, he's been pushing that Michigan State team to continue to make it.
It'll definitely be exciting to see which two teams make their way to the championship. We'll conclude the show by sharing our picks for some of the bigger games happening this week. Our crew will continue to be a part of this, and we'll see how we all did in the next episode. The first game features the Auburn Tigers versus the Virginia Cavaliers. Who do you have?
I got Auburn. I mean, I want to see an upset. Virginia, they've made it far enough for me to say, hey, this is kind of enough. Honestly, they're an okay team to me, but I got Auburn.
Yeah, I think even though Auburn is the 5 seed, I don't even really think that it's that much of an upset the way they've been playing lately. They seem like they're a completely different team in this tournament than what they were beforehand. And they killed it in the SEC tournament as well. But, yeah, let's move on to Michigan State versus Texas Tech. Who do you have in that one, Q?
I mean, honestly, I'm going to have to choose Texas Tech. With that game kind of being that's going to be like the decider as far as for like who's really going to kind of maybe win this whole tournament. Reason why I say, I mean, both teams are very efficient teams, and then for Texas Tech to kind of go into the game against Gonzaga and to kind of knock them off, I was kind of seeing Gonzaga to actually be the team to go all the way. But I got Texas Tech.
I'm going Michigan State. I think Tom Izzo, I mean, he's got the experience. He's one of the best coaches in college basketball, no doubt. And then Michigan State, like I was saying earlier when we were previewing the game, Cassius Winston's just been, I think he's one of the best players that has been in this tournament, if not the best. Lastly, a key game between the Cubs and the Brewers this Saturday. Who do you have winning that one, Q?
I got the Cubs. I just want to see. The Cubs they've been efficient to the start of this season. Jason Hayward's been one of my favorite players to actually watch on the Cubs, and I just want to see the Cubs kind of come out with this win.
Yeah, I'm going with the Brewers on this one. I mean, they've got the reigning NL MVP in Christian Yelich. They've got Lorenzo Cain and Ryan Braun in a stacked outfield, and I just think they have too many bats for the Cubs to keep up.
Well, we'll see after this weekend, but that's all we have for the second episode of the Sports Quarter. The next episode will feature an entirely different show format that will be fun to watch. Thank you for watching, and see you next time.